There are legends of people born with the gift of making music so true it can pierce the veil between life and death, conjuring spirits from the past and the future. In ancient Ireland, they were called Fili. In Choctaw land, they call them firekeepers, and in West Africa, they are called griots. This gift can bring healing to their communities, but it also attracts evil.
Comment. Subscribe to Recapss Horror.
A boy named Samuel stumbles into the church, his body bearing fresh wounds as if he has just escaped a brutal attack. The priest immediately calls him over and embraces him tightly. He demands that Samuel swear before him and the congregation to abandon his sinful ways. The priest orders Samuel to drop his guitar, commanding in the name of God, let it go. One day earlier, Smoke and Stack buy an old mill from a man named Hogwood, but they warn him firmly that neither he nor his clan associates is allowed to step across their property line. If they do, they will face deadly consequences. Meanwhile, Samuel visits the church and meets Father Jed, who is actually his father. Samuel tells him he has finished his work for the day, and then looks at his guitar, to which Jed mentions that he brought it there, saying he wants him to help him with his sermon tomorrow. Samuel steps forward to the pulpit and begins reading a verse from the Bible, but then suddenly closes the book while still continuing the verse. He then tells Jed that he will be late, prompting Jed to ask where he needs to go that is more important than being in the house of God. Samuel assures him he will be back in time for the service in the morning, but Jed stops him and warns that if he keeps dancing with the devil, one day he will follow him home. Just then, his cousins Smoke and Stack arrive, and Samuel goes with them. Next, we learn that Smoke and Stack have returned from Chicago after 7 years, and Samuel thinks that black men can go wherever they want there. But Smoke tells him not to believe everything he hears. He explains that Chicago isn't anything special, just Mississippi with tall buildings instead of plantations, and that's why they came back home. They lead him to some bushes beside the road, where a truck loaded with alcohol is hidden. Smoke notes they're behind schedule and suggests opening the club next weekend. But Stack insists it has to be tonight. Smoke says their only chance is to split up, so they decide that Smoke will go talk to Chose, while Stack recruits others to join their team. Smoke reaches the market and calls a girl over, asking if she has heard of the Smokestack twins. When she replies, "Of course," he says, "I am Smoke," but reassures her she's not in any trouble. He then tells her that he needs her to sit in his truck, and if anyone looks too long, she should honk the horn. He promises to pay her 10 cents for every minute he's gone, and the girl agrees, but he tells her she should negotiate. The girl counters with 50 cents, and he says 20 cents is the best he can do. He then meets his friend Bo Chow and tells him they're throwing a big event tonight. But just then, the girl honks the horn. Smoke immediately steps outside and, without hesitation, shoots a man who's stealing goods from his truck. The man turns around, and Smoke asks why he was stealing from this truck, to which he says he didn't realize it was his truck. But the girl says she told him it was. The man insists he thought she was lying because he was supposed to be in Chicago working for Capone, to which Smoke says they're back now. But then he shoots another man in the leg, stating, "Can't have someone talking about how he almost robbed the twins, not without a limp to show for it." He returns to Bo, telling him he just shot a couple of guys outside and gives him money to get them treated. Meanwhile, Samuel asks Stack if they really killed their father, and Stack replies that Smoke did, explaining that their father knocked him unconscious, and by the time he came to, Smoke was halfway done burying him. Samuel thanks Stack for the guitar and asks where he got it from, to which Stack tells him it's Charlie Patton's guitar, which they won in a card game. Samuel is surprised, and Stack challenges him to see if he can play like Patton. Samuel starts playing the guitar, and as soon as he begins singing, Stack is stunned. He becomes very excited, impressed by how good Sam is. They then visit Delta Slim, and Stack introduces him to Samuel, saying, "This is the finest blues player in all the Delta." But Slim mocks and laughs, saying he's got socks older than this boy. Samuel offers to prove himself, but Slim tells him to put the guitar down. Stack offers Slim $20 to play at his club tonight, and at first, Slim refuses, saying he has to perform at Messenger's, where he's played every Saturday for the past 10 years. But when Stack offers him a beer, and Slim takes a sip of it, he enjoys it very much. Stack then sweetens the deal, saying he has 500 more bottles, ice cold, and offers $40 a night plus all the beer he can drink. Slim accepts the deal, and Stack announces, "These two are gonna be playing down at the old sawmill for the grand opening of our new joint, Club Juke." After their performance, Samuel approaches a woman and says he's seen her somewhere before. He asks, "Do you sing?" And she replies, "Time to time." Samuel introduces himself as Preacher Boy, and she tells him her name is Pearline, but warns him she's married and tells him to be careful, saying he's gonna bite off more than he can chew. Meanwhile, a woman named Mary approaches Stack and says she waited for him, and when Stack asks why, she replies because he told her he loved her. He questions why she is back here, and she tells him she buried her mother yesterday and hoped to see him and Smoke there since her mother looked after them both. Stack says all they ever wanted was food and a warm bed, to which Mary tells him to rot in hell and then walks away. They then meet Cornbread, and Stack offers him a job, but the man hesitates, saying his wife is pregnant, and he doesn't have time for any scheme. But when Stack promises he'll make a lot of money, the wife asks how much, and Stack replies, "A lot." Meanwhile, Smoke meets his wife Annie and asks her to work with him, but she refuses, saying she doesn't want his cursed money. Smoke tells her he's been all over the world, seeing men die in ways he didn't even know were possible. He says he's never seen roots, demons, ghosts, or magic, but only power, and only money can give you that. Annie calls him a fool, saying all that war and whatever else he's been doing in Chicago doesn't matter. He's here in front of her. She asks how he knows she isn't praying and working every route her grandma taught her to keep him and Stack safe every day since they've been gone. He asks why those roots haven't worked on their baby, and she says she doesn't know, but they work on you. Meanwhile, a man named Remick approaches a house and knocks on the door desperately. Brett and Joan point guns at him, but he falls to his knees, explaining that the Choctaw tried to kill him and took his wife. He offers them some gold, saying the dirty Injuns meant to rob him, but they didn't get it all. After a while, the Choctaw arrive at the house, and one of them tells Jones that they are chasing someone dangerous, and he might have come onto her property. He asks if she's seen anyone recently, but she says no. He asks if the man is inside with her, then warns that he's not what he seems, and, God forbid, if she lets him in, they need to act now. Just then, another Choctaw says something in their language, and the man turns and leaves. Joan goes inside and finds Remick sitting there, who tells her that Brett is just resting. Just then, Brett stands up, and Joan is horrified to see that he has transformed. Remick says he's all better now, and Joan screams in terror, but Remick tells her not to cry, and the scene cuts there. Meanwhile, customers are starting to arrive at Club Juke. The place is alive with energy. Everyone is dancing and singing, creating a vibrant scene. Smoke notices a customer buying a corn liquor, but he is short of money, so he pays in local currency. He takes Stack and Annie aside and says they only accept payment in US dollars, but Annie replies, "This isn't Chicago." Stack explains, "These people have been working in the fields all day, so when they come here, let them enjoy themselves." Annie insists, "They've got to feel wanted if you want this place to work." Meanwhile, Samuel walks over to Mary and says he doesn't think she should be here, to which Mary tells him to get out of her face. But when he tells her that he's the twins' little cousin, she asks, "Are you little Sammy? You old enough to drink now?" Smoke says this isn't good for business, but Stack says it's opening night, and besides, only be a few of them like this. Samuel asks Mary what she is, and she tells him her mom's dad was half black and he raised her to keep the clan from killing her. She then reveals that her mom delivered the twins, and after their mother died, she nursed them like they were her own. She adds, they had enough money to buy the whole mill, but didn't even send flowers to her mother's funeral. Smoke says they sent flowers while her mother was still alive to smell them, and then tells Samuel to go check on Slim and see if he needs any backup. Smoke then tells Stack to take care of Mary, or he will do it himself. Stack tells Mary to get out of there, but she says she didn't come for him. Stack says he got her a wealthy white husband and a farm, so she should go back to that. But she says she didn't want it to be white. She wanted to be with him. Stack warns her that if the wrong person hears her, they'll kill her. And when she asks if it would matter to him, he replies that if anyone lays a hand on her, he and his brother will come and kill them all. Mary says she was young enough to believe he'd come back and waited a long time, but she's grown now, and she knows he never intended to stay. She asks why he can't accept it, And he admits that he loves her and he thinks about her every day, but he just wanted to keep her somewhere safe. But it was never here, and it was never with him. Later, Samuel begins his performance and sings a song that he wrote for her dad. Gradually, everyone starts dancing to his song, and in the middle of it, a flashback reveals Slim telling him that blues wasn't forced on them like that religion. They brought this with them from home. It's magic, what they do. It's sacred and big. As he continues singing, the narrator says, "There are legends of people born with the gift of making music so true it can pierce the veil between life and death, conjuring spirits from the past and the future." As the performance ends, we see Brett, Joan, and Remick watching them from a distance. After a while, Cornfield spots them heading toward the club and urgently asks a man to get the twins. Remick tells Cornbread they happen to be musicians and walked all the way here, so they're hungry as dogs. He asks if they wouldn't mind letting them come inside, but Cornbread says he thinks they're in the wrong place. Just then, the twins and others arrive, and Remick introduces himself and the group. Then, seeing Samuel, he says, "You must be that voice I heard out here, and it was beautiful." Smoke asks where they're all from, and Remick says North Carolina. He explains they believe in equality in music and just came to play, spend some money, and have a good time, but Smoke tells them to head back into town, saying there are plenty of white barrel houses down there. After they leave, Stack asks, "What if they just came to sing?" And Smoke replies, "One wrong look at their woman could start trouble." Then he tells Cornbread, "Don't let them in." Later, Stack tells Mary that they're underwater, saying most customers down there pay with credits, not cash. Mary asks, "What about the crackers?" and says she can go feel them out before they're too far gone. Stack insists he can feel them out himself, but Mary insists they'll tell her more than they'll tell him, and she can't find out what they really have. Samuel tells Smoke he feels free being with them, but is heading to Chicago. Smoke recalls they ran to Mound Bayou, a black-owned town founded by former slaves, but the mayor knew their daddy was a cruel man. He advises Samuel to go there, since his dad is a preacher, but Samuel refuses, saying people know the Smokestack twins more than his dad. Smoke warns Samuel this is his last night at the Juke joint, and threatens to kill him if he plays there again, but Samuel says he's leaving like they all did, and if that's a problem for him, he can kill him. Smoke points his gun at him, saying I am a soldier and you just gave me a command, but then he puts his gun back. Meanwhile, Mary approaches Remick and the others, saying she just wants to see if they're good people and if they've got money to spend. Remick says they've got plenty of money, and Brett hands her some gold coins. She asks what kind of money it is, and Remick says it's from a different place and time, but it spends just the same, though it's no good for her. She asks why, and he says it's because she's in some deep pain that money can't fix. He says she came here for fellowship and love. Mary tells them her mother just passed, and they say it's awful. Losing a mother hurts. Remick says he wishes they had met sooner, that he would have saved her mother, and that he can still save Mary from hers. Mary says she's just sad and doesn't need saving, but Remick insists she does. Realizing something's wrong, Mary quickly pulls out the gun Stack gave her and says she's heading back, and thinks they all should too. But as she turns toward the club, Remick jumps at her. Mary returns to the club, and Cornbread asks what she is doing here. She asks, he gonna let her in? To which he steps aside and lets her go inside. After a while, Cornbread asks Slim to watch the door for him, saying he needs to go to piss. Mary hands Stack the gold coins, and he gets excited to see them. He asks if she wants to go out there and tell them to play a song, but instead of replying, she kisses him. The scene then shifts to Cornbread, who hears noises coming from the nearby bushes, and the scene shifts back to the club, where Mary and Stack are making out when he notices that she is drooling, but she asks, he wants some? And as they continue, we see bite marks on her shoulder. After a while, Smoke enters the room, and to their horror, they find Mary sucking Stack's blood. Sensing his presence, she immediately steps back and says, it's not what it looks like, but Smoke quickly pulls out his guns and shoots her, knocking her down. However, to his shock, she begins laughing, stands up, and says they're going to kill every last one of them. He shoots again, but she pushes him back and runs out, telling Slim that she will be back soon. Inside, Stack is writhing in pain, and Smoke reassures him that he is with him. But after a while, Stack dies in his arms. Annie asks Slim to keep everybody out, to which Slim goes out and tells everyone that the party is over, so they all have to go. Annie asks, "Did Mary say anything?" And Samuel replies, "She said they're gonna kill every one of them." Annie tells Smoke they have to move Stack's body, but he tells her not to touch him. Annie says, "This is a haint they are dealing with, or worse, so they have to keep everybody inside and the dead body out." But Smoke says Stack is staying in here with him and asks if she has any magic to bring him back, to which she says she can't. Grace insists they have to leave, but Bo reminds her that Smoke just lost his brother. Grace counters that they came here to help with the party, not this nightmare, and their daughter Lisa is home alone. Bo finally agrees and heads out to get the car, while Annie locks Stack's lifeless body in that room. After a while, Cornbread returns, and when Slim asks where he's been, Cornbread replies, "I went to piss, but I needed to take a shit too." Then he looks at Smoke and asks what happened to him. Smoke says, Stack is dead, and asks, "What happened to you?" To which Cornbread apologizes and asks to be let in so he can help. But Annie blocks him, asking why he can't just walk in without an invitation. She demands he admit that one of those white folks out there killed him, and now he's a haint. Cornbread laughs, saying Smoke showed him kindness and employed him, but now that his brother's been killed, he needs comfort, not her filling his mind with that old Louisiana Bayou bullshit. Smoke says, "You've been in and out to here all day, ain't never needed no invite before." To which Cornbread says, "I thought you were better than this, but you just like the white man." He turns to leave, then pauses, asking for his money. Annie warns Smoke to be careful, and Smoke pulls some cash from his pocket to give to him. But Cornbread tries to bite him, and Smoke shoots him just in time. Horrified, everyone watches as Cornbread gets up and moves toward Smoke, but Annie helps Smoke to his feet, pulls him inside, and quickly shuts the door behind them. Just then, a knock sounds from inside the room, and Stack says, "Let me out of here." Smoke peers through a hole and asks, "Stack, is that you?" To which Stack confirms it's him and asks Smoke to open the door. Annie tells Smoke this isn't his brother, but Stack cuts in. "You gonna let her come between us again?" Growing angry, he bangs on the door, shouting that if they don't let him out, he'll kill them all. After a tense pause, Smoke asks Annie for the keys, and as Samuel moves forward to peek, Stack suddenly breaks open the door, but Annie splashes water on him, causing his body to burn, and he runs out of the club. Smoke rushes to help Samuel up, while Perlian asks what was in the jar, and Annie answers, "Pickled garlic." And they are not haints. They are vampires. Grace says, Bo is outside and they should go get him, but Smoke says Bo knows how to take care of himself, and likely got to safety. Samuel asks how something could move and sound like Stack, and Annie explains that haints switch places with souls, but vampires are different. Their souls get stuck in their bodies and can't join their ancestors. They're cursed to live with hate. Smoke asks if they can bring Stack back by killing the one who made him like this, to which Annie says they live on, even if the one who made them is killed, and the best thing is to free their spirit by killing the vampire with sunlight and a wooden stake to the heart. Smoke wonders what changed tonight after all these years of keeping Stack safe, and Samuel admits it's because of him, saying his daddy told him the devil was coming because of his music. Just then, Perlian screams, and they see a dead body lying there. They wonder who bit him, but Annie says they have to get him out before he wakes up. Smoke and Samuel carry the body outside when they hear Remick singing, and it's revealed that Remick and the others have turned all the people into vampires. Shocked, Smoke tells Samuel they need to go back inside, and they rush in quickly. Later, Annie tells them that they all have to eat the garlic to figure out if any of them is a vampire. They all eat a clove of garlic, but none of them turn out to be vampires. Annie asks Smoke if he's sure that was the blood, and when he checks it, he finds it's just wine. Then, the man they threw out knocks on the door and asks to be let in. Smoke pulls out his gun and opens the door, but Cornbread suddenly lunges at the man and starts sucking his blood. Annie tells them to close the door, but just then, Bo approaches them and tells Grace to come out, saying he got the car started. Grace hesitates, realizing Bo is not himself anymore, to which Bo asks if she will let him back in, so they can gather their things and leave. Smoke promises her he will find a way out, but Remick steps in, saying he is their way out. Remick says the world has already given up on them and won't let them build a fellowship, but together, they will do just that. He tells Grace to let them in, or they will go pay a visit to little Lisa. Grace warns him not to dare, but Remick speaks something in Chinese that shocks her. Samuel calls Remick the devil, and Remick says Samuel is the one he came for. He says he's trapped here and wants to see his people again, and his gifts can bring them to him. He then asks for Samuel, promising to let the others live if they give him up. Samuel steps forward, but the others stop him, and Slim tells Remick that Samuel belongs with them. Remick tells Smoke he can't save Samuel any more than he could save his brother. He tells Smoke that he is not safe, no matter how many guns or how much money he has. They will take it when they want. Remick then says that what was built tonight is beautiful, but built on a lie. He reveals that Hogwood is the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan, and that Joan is his nephew. They were always going to kill them, but he just happened to show up at the right place at the right time. Stack confirms that Remick is telling the truth because he can see his memories, and he declares that this is not a juke joint, but a slaughterhouse. Slim says the Stack he knows wouldn't be hanging out with the devil, but Stack says he's talking to his big brother now and tells Slim to stay quiet. He then turns to Smoke and says they were never going to be free, that they've been running everywhere looking for freedom, and they knew well they would never find it, until now. He says this is the only way, and he's not doing it without Smoke. Annie and the others pull Smoke inside and shut the door. After a while, Grace spots the vampires outside the club, their eerie voices rising in song. Enraged, she grabs a gun, ready to face whatever comes, but Annie and Smoke hold her back, trying to calm her raging fear. However, Grace dares the vampires to come inside. Everyone scrambles, grabbing anything they can to defend themselves. And as Remick enters with others, Grace throws a bottle, but he easily bats it away, and then they all pounce on them. A fierce battle breaks out between them, and after a while, Annie senses that they can feel Remick's pain. But Stack lunges at her, knocking her down. Smoke warns him not to bite her, but Stack ignores him and sinks his teeth into Annie. Hurlian fires at Stack and then Remick, and Smoke rushes to check on Annie, who gasps, reminding him that he promised to kill her if she got bitten. With trembling hands, Smoke picks up the wooden stake and drives it into her heart, and seeing it, Remick, Stack, and Mary flee into the night. Slim tells Smoke, "Get Samuel out of here," and, handing Samuel his guitar, he tells him to do what he told him. As they rush upstairs, Slim deliberately cuts his arm, blood dripping down, knowing it will attract the vampires to him. Meanwhile, Remick and Stack attack Samuel and Smoke with fierce aggression, but Perling plunges a knife into Remick's back. Remick turns to her and bites her, and when Samuel lunges, Remick stops him, but Smoke shoots him, knocking Remick to the ground. Perline tells Samuel to leave, and Smoke urges, "Go, keep running till you see the sunrise." Samuel leaps off the building, sprinting desperately away, but before he can get far, Remick springs at him and hits him, throwing him into the dark water. As Remick approaches Samuel, he says, "I want your stories, your songs, and you're gonna have mine." Samuel begins to recite a prayer, but Remick joins in, and soon the other vampires fall into the chant. He then tells Samuel that long ago, the men who stole his father's land forced these words upon us. He hated those men, but the words still bring him comfort. He continues, "Those men lied to themselves and lied to us. They told stories of a god above and a devil below, and lies of a dominion of man over beast and earth." Meanwhile, as Stack tries to bite Smoke, the mojo bag around his neck protects him. Smoke swiftly knocks Stack down and raises a stake, hesitating only to whisper, "Sorry I couldn't keep you safe." But Stack says, "Don't be sorry. You always did." Meanwhile, Samuel strikes Remick with his guitar, sending waves of pain through all the vampires. Enraged, Remick yanks the disc from his head and throws it into the water, before he lunges towards Samuel, sneering, "You'll taste the sweet pain of death." But just as he moves to bite, Smoke plunges the wooden stake into Remick's heart, just in time. Smoke then rushes to check on Samuel, and as the first light of dawn breaks, the vampires burst into flames, howling in agony. Smoke and Samuel then watch silently as Remick's fiery form crumbles, the nightmare finally over. Later, Smoke gives Samuel his car key and tells him to go home and bury the guitar, but Samuel refuses, saying it's Charlie Patton's. Smoke asks, "Who told him that?" And Samuel says Stack did. Smoke reveals, "That's our daddy's guitar," then pulls him close, telling him to be strong before embracing him and saying, "I got some business to handle." Samuel visits the church, And meanwhile, Smoke sits there, reminiscing about all the memories and how he and his companions had worked hard together to create this club. Remembering all this, he takes the mojo bag from around his neck and throws it away. Smoke opens the box, revealing an arsenal of guns and ammunition. Soon after, Hogwood arrives with his clan, only to find the door locked tight. And just then, Smoke bursts into action, opening fire on them. Chaos erupts as the clan members scatter, but Smoke steps boldly into the open, relentless, mowing them down. A few attempt to flee in a truck, but Smoke hurls a grenade inside, blowing it to pieces in a fiery explosion. But Smoke had also been shot. He then turns to Hogwood and asks, "You got cigarettes?" To which Hogwood pulls a pack from his pocket and hands it over. Later, Smoke sits down, smoking a cigarette, but suddenly hears noises and turns to see Annie peacefully breastfeeding their baby. She looks at him and tells him to put that cigarette out and hold our baby. Smoke discards the cigarette and extends his arms, ready to take the child. But Hogwood interrupts the moment, saying, "I got money." Furious, Smoke grabs his gun and empties the magazine, brutal in his fury. Smoke then turns to Annie, who hands him their infant, and Smoke whispers, "Papa's here." Meanwhile, Samuel decides not to part with the guitar, but chooses instead to leave the place behind. The scene opens to an older Samuel playing his guitar at his club, the rich blues sound filling the air. Later, Mary and Stack visit him, and he recalls Annie's warning. Vampires are different, the worst kind, living on even if the one who made them is killed. They must be killed individually. Stack takes a seat and orders whatever the old man is having, while Mary's unnerving smile and sharp teeth frighten the bartender into fleeing. Samuel asks how, and Stack reveals that he was the one person Smoke couldn't kill, recounting that Smoke promised to stay away from Samuel and let him live his life. As Stack smells Samuel, he ominously predicts that his time is short, but offers to extend it, saying they could make it so he sticks around longer. But Samuel declines, saying he's seen enough of this place. Stack remarks that he doesn't care for the electric guitar as much as the real one and asks if Samuel still has it. Samuel reveals the treasured old guitar and begins playing the very same song he first sang to Stack. As the last note hangs in the air, Stack places money on the table, embraces Samuel, and prepares to leave, and Mary tells little Sammy to take care. But before they leave, Samuel confesses that once every week, he wakes in the grip of paralysis, trapped in the memory of that night. Yet, before the sun dipped below the horizon, he remembered it as the best moment of his life. He asks Stack if he feels the same, and Stack says that night was the last time he saw his brother, the last time he saw daylight, but for those few precious hours, they had been free.